Hello everybody and welcome back. Alright, if you haven't seen my last OBS tutorial, go ahead and watch it. You can see it on the screen right now. This is a part 2 or kind of an extra part to the first part that I did. In this video, I'm just going to be showing kind of some little extra bits to go along with you using OBS, and I can guarantee that even if you have seen every OBS video out there, the first thing that I'm going to show is probably going to be something that you haven't seen anyone else talk about on YouTube. And without wasting any time, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so as mentioned, the first thing that I want to show you is how to get OBS to start with your computer, like whenever you log on, kind of like how things like Spotify and Discord does. Because if you've ever checked your task manager for the startup apps right here, you'll notice that OBS does not have a startup option. Same within the OBS settings. There's nowhere in here that says to start OBS whenever you first turn your computer on. So I'm going to show you how to start OBS when your computer first turns on, as well as how to start it with replay buffer active so that you don't have to go and click this every time. All right, so first thing we're going to need to do this is we're going to have to search for something on our computer called Task Scheduler. You can see this is what it looks like, so go ahead and open that. And yours should look something like this. You can actually see I already have my version of this right here. So now over on the right, go ahead and hit Create Task, and then I'm going to show you the settings from my one that's already done. Up here, you're going to go ahead and name it whatever you want. I just called mine OBS Studio Auto Start, and then make sure you copy these settings you see here. The most important one is run with highest privileges. This is going to make sure that whenever this starts, it's going to run it as administrator. And then for this right here, the when running the task use for following user account, make sure this is your user account right here. So obviously all this stuff is named after my computer, but you're just going to want to make sure that this is set to whatever your computer's set to. All right, next up in the triggers, go ahead and hit new right here. And then I'm going to show you the settings that I have. So we're going to have begin the task at logon, and then we're going to have it do for, you can do this for any user or specific user. I just chose to do a specific user and chose my own thing. And then you can kind of ignore the other stuff and just have enabled right here and then hit OK. Then in the actions, you're going to hit new. And then these are the settings you're going to have. For action, we're going to have start program. And then for the program/script, you're going to find wherever your OBS is saved. So for example, mine is saved in my C drive in program files under OBS Studio bin 64, and then the exe is right here. Yours might be different depending on your computer, so just find wherever your main obs.exe file is. And then right here in the add arguments, we're going to add an argument, which I'll leave in the description if you're wondering. It's -- start replay buffer. And make sure you copy this down because we're going to use it later, and I'll explain what this does, although you can probably tell just by the name. For the start in optional, just put the same thing as what you have up here, basically this part only, and then you can hit OK. These are the settings that you want for the conditions. If we go over to settings, these are the settings you want for this. All right, and that should be it. Go ahead and hit the OK button. And now every time you log onto your computer, it will automatically start OBS, and it will start it with the replay buffer active. That's what that -- start replay buffer does, is it will start it with the replay buffer active. There's actually a list that I will leave in the description that has a whole bunch of these different options that you can start with. For example, you can start OBS with the virtual cam active. You can start it streaming. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but you can make it to where every time you launch OBS, it'll immediately start streaming. You can start it with it recording. I mean, the list is crazy. You can see all these different options if you want. And again, I will leave this in the description below. But now that we have our OBS set to automatically start when our computer boots up, another thing that we're going to want to do is make it to where anytime we press any of the icons for OBS, for example, in our taskbar, on our desktop, or in the start menu, we're going to want to make it to where it also starts with the replay buffer. So to do this, it's pretty easy. What you're going to want to do is find wherever your OBS is. Like, for example, here's mine in my taskbar, and then I'm going to right click on it again, go to properties, and then you will see right here in the target section, at the end of the quotation marks for where it starts, we're going to add a space and then add the start replay buffer right here. And then from there, it's pretty easy. Make sure you do that on your desktop icon. Make sure you do that on your start menu icon. Just, you can search for OBS, go to open file location. You can right click on this, go to properties, and you can see basically anywhere where you would ever think of clicking on OBS, make sure you have whatever start parameters you want at the end of this line. Hopefully that helps a bunch of people out. That's something that I have never seen anyone talk about on YouTube and it took me forever to try to figure out on my own. I had to go through a bunch of different forums like years and years ago when I first found this out. So hopefully that's useful to you. All right, next thing I want to show you that I could have shown in the last video, but I sort of just forgot. And that is if you go up to here in OBS, you go to docs, and then you go to the stats doc right here. We get this little doc thing that you can see, and I'm actually just going to put it I'm going to put it in between the audio mixer and the sources and stuff. But as you can see, this shows you a lot of information about OBS, and I'm going to try to explain some of these different things that you need to look out for and things like that. So first things first, this is only really useful if you have multiple monitors and you have OBS on another monitor where you can actively see this, but it still can be useful if you have this and you tab back into it to check your stuff. So some of these are self-explanatory. CPU usage is showing you how much % of your CPU it's using. Disk space available is showing you how much disk space you have available wherever you save your videos, which is in the output section under recording. So wherever your recording path is, this tells you how much storage you have left. Whenever you start like recording or whatever, this disk full and approximately should show up. For some reason it's not showing up on this one, but I can show you on my main OBS. You can see it says I have 884 hours of video that I still have left. Memory usage is just showing you how much of your RAM your OBS is using. And now we get to these important ones over here. So the FPS will show you the active FPS that it's recording at. If you ever see this number go below into like a yellow or a red, then that usually means that your OBS isn't able to keep up with your recording settings. So you might want to lower something. Maybe you need to lower your resolution from 1080p to something like 720p or something like that. And then these two right here, frames missed due to rendering lag and skip frames due to encoding lag. These will show you how many frames your OBS has been recording. As you can see on my main OBS, I currently have a lot because this has been running since my computer's been on. But you can see I only have 5 frames missed to rendering and encoding lag right here, which is, it's an okay amount. This number is allowed to go up, but if you see this number going up into like the hundreds or thousands rapidly, then once again, that means that there's something wrong with your OBS. Usually it can't keep up, or in some cases, even if you like open a game and you know how when you open a game, it'll like for a second go to a black screen as it's going into full screen mode, and then it might like flicker on your screen or whatever. Like, I don't know, Windows is weird with different stuff like that. Sometimes that will cause OBS to miss a couple frames, which is fine. But if you're like currently streaming or recording and you notice these going up really fast, then like I said, that is an issue that you need to fix in your OBS settings. Right here, you can see the recording and streaming status if you are actively streaming and recording. And you can also see whenever you're streaming, stuff like this will show up. It'll show you how many kilobytes per second you're sending to whatever you stream to. And then it'll also show you how many frames you drop due to your internet lag. So the frame drops from internet lag is different from these right here, these two. These are hardware frame drops, and this is an internet frame drop. So if your frames are dropping a lot over in this area, then that's just because your internet either isn't as good enough to handle whatever stream you're doing, or you maybe just need to drop the bitrate down in the streaming tab right here. Maybe drop this down a little bit. Hopefully that helps you kind of understand this little stats page a little bit better. It's very useful and I recommend you have it on. All right, next thing I want to quote unquote show off. I can't really show it because this would be an entire video of its own if I were to do it, but I wanted to show you. So SteelSeries has this thing called SteelSeries Sonar, and I recommend you go and you check this website out. Basically what this does is it allows you to separate your audio into different channels on your computer. So usually the previous way people would do this was either you need to buy a Go XLR, a Beacon microphone, or a Elgato Wave XLR or Elgato Wave microphone. And with those applications, you're able to separate your game audio. For example, you can have your microphone audio separate from your Discord audio, and your Discord audio separate from your microphone and your game audio, so that whenever you're recording, because usually when you record on OBS, your Discord audio and your game audio are both in the same audio channel. So if you ever need to cut out something that your friend says, it'll also cut out the game audio, or if your game is too loud and you want to lower it, it will also at the same time lower your Discord audio, and it's kind of just annoying to deal with. So what I recommend is you check out this thing, SteelSeries Sonar, and I recommend you watch a couple different videos on YouTube going over it, because it's very helpful for helping you separate your different audio tracks. But I did want to show, if you were to do that, which I highly recommend you do that. How you would then go about setting that up in OBS is if we go into our settings and we go to audio up here, we're going to have to add a couple of our new audio channels that we have. So obviously I have a Go XLR, so these might be named differently for you. But if you watched my last video, right now we should have our chat mic, which is our main microphone, and then our system audio, which would be our Discord and system separately. If you did this with SteelSeries Sonar, what I recommend you do is you have your system right here. In this audio desktop number 2, you're going to have your Discord audio, then you're going to have your microphone, and then if SteelSeries allows it, you can do your stream mix or broadcast mix or whatever they call it. And these are the 4 main things that we're going to want to have. And then you can hit apply and okay, and you'll see these new channels pop up. And we're going to have to rename some of these. So I can tell mic audio number 2, I believe is our stream mix right here. We have our audio, and then we have our main desktop audio. Desktop audio 2, I believe, is our Discord audio. So we're going to go ahead and save that right there. Then another thing we're going to want to do is in our settings, if we go to output and audio, remember last time we set up our different audio tracks, and now we're going to add a new one. So I'm going to shift the stream audio down to this one. Let me just copy these settings. And then right here, I'm going to actually shift the desktop audio down to this one right here, and then desktop audio is going to become our Discord audio. So now on track 1 we'll have our microphone, on track 2 we'll have our Discord, on track 3 we will have our desktop, and on track 4 we will have all 3 of these combined. Hey, this is editing me here. I also forgot to mention you're going to want to click on the 4th track in the recording section whenever you add your different audio track. So whoops, make sure you go ahead and do that. Go ahead and hit apply and okay. And the final thing we need to do is set them up in here. So like I mentioned before, desktop audio is going to be on track number 3 because that is our desktop audio track. Discord is going to be on track number 2. Our microphone should be on track number 1. And then our stream mix should be on track number 4. If SteelSeries doesn't allow a stream mix, or you don't know how to set up a stream mix, then instead what you can do is for your desktop, Discord, and microphone audio, just make sure those are all clicked on number 4. So yours should look something like how mine looks right here. Now, one final advanced thing, you are now done and all of your audio should be separated. One final advanced thing I want to show you is in the streaming section. If you are signed in, or in the output section, sorry, if you are signed in through Twitch, you'll see this thing called Twitch VOD track. We're going to go ahead and turn this on, and we're going to set this to number 5. And what this will do is any audio going to this track right here is going to be heard by Twitch live whenever people are watching, but then whenever the VOD comes out, so whenever your stream is finished, whatever's on this audio track will be removed. So what this is good for is to send your Spotify to this VOD track right here, so it's on channel number 5. So if we send our Spotify to channel number 5, while you're live, your audience will be able to hear whatever's going on in Spotify, but then whenever your stream is over, the Spotify music will be removed from your VOD channel so that you don't get copyright struck. And how we're going to set that up is in your sources. What you can do is you can right click, you can add, and then you can add a audio output capture right here. We can just call this Spotify, click OK. And then in the device right here, I'm going to click on my music channel. There we go. And then we'll hit OK. And then we can I'm just going to move this below everything just to sort of get it out of the way. And now our OBS is kind of getting cramped over here, but you'll see we have a Spotify track. All right. And now you'll see our Spotify is right here. I've muted it on the video so that I don't get copyrighted or anything, but you can see we have Spotify running. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to go back into this little area, and we're going to set our Spotify to be on track number 5. Hey, it's editing me again. If you did do this with the Spotify, you need to go in your recording area, and then if you want to hear your Spotify in your recordings, then you can go ahead and click on track 5 if you want, so that it's recording that one. In my case, I don't really want my Spotify to be in my recording, so I wouldn't click on that. I just thought I would mention it for those of you who are interested. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is because our stream audio is now on track number 4, we're gonna have to go up to streaming and now set this to be on track number 4. And there we go, we're done. Now any audio from our Spotify will not show up in our VODs, and we shouldn't be copyright struck. I've heard some people say it's kind of finicky, and sometimes they do get copyright struck sometimes, so use this at your own risk, although it's still a really good alternative to be able to, hear whatever music you want during stream. hopefully that was easy to understand and hopefully you found that useful. Like I mentioned before, please check out SteelSeries Sonar. It's so useful. It's so much better than, I think it's called Voice Meter or whatever that other one's called. I highly recommend this. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you guys is just a couple plugins that either I use or I think would be useful to some of you guys. Starting off, obviously you've already heard of this one. Everyone's heard of this one. The Atom like vertical and multi-stream plugins. I'm just going to mention this quickly just so that people who for some reason have not heard of this can check it out. What this allows you to do is it allows you to stream on vertical platforms. You can see on my main OBS over here to the left side, you can see this is like a vertical preview. I know it gets confusing with all of this stuff with the infinite loop going on, but over to the left, we have this vertical view where I can choose to stream to TikTok or YouTube Shorts or whatever I want. And one of their more recent product things that they have is called multi-stream, and this allows you to stream to multiple different areas at once. Personally, I use a service called Restream. You can see this is the chat for it right here. The only problem I found with this multi-stream plugin is that you can't combine the chats, so you'd have to have a window open for, like, say you're streaming on YouTube and Twitch, you'd have to have a window open for your YouTube chat and also for your Twitch chat so that you can see both at the same time. It's kind of annoying. I heard that apparently they're working on a combined chat feature, so maybe if you want a multi-stream, hold out on that, but I still thought I would mention these anyways. Now we have this one right here. Oh, and by the way, I'll leave all these in the description below for those of you who want to easily check them out. We have this one in here called Input Overlay. If you've watched any of my recent tutorial videos, I've actually been using these in the background. Let me show this one real quick. All right, so you can see in this video right here, I have the input overlay going on, and if I'll actually ever click my mouse. So you can see whenever I press and click on my keyboard and mouse, it will show whatever I'm pressing in game, which is pretty useful in game or on my desktop, wherever. This is really useful if you want to show people what exactly you're pressing. Mine, I went ahead and made a custom skin for it. That's why you saw it was pink before, but they have different presets that you can go through and choose from. There's a bunch of different options. Another one that's useful is source clone. This allows you to clone your different sources because currently in OBS, whenever you try to copy a source, for some reason, the only option is like usually just paste reference. So whenever you do something like this and you paste a reference and you make a change to it, like for example, you change the name of it, or you change what's actually going on, or you change the size or whatever, for some reason it applies it to the original one as well. And it's kind of annoying if you want to have two of the same source doing different things. Like for example, in my vertical view over here, you can see I actually have the background blurred, and then I have the main like video in the middle of the background blur. And the only way I could do this was by adding a clone of the background source so that I could apply a blur to it without it applying the blur to the main video as well. And speaking of blur, we have composite blur right here. This is the one that I use. Basically, it allows you to right click on a source, go to filters, and then you can add a blur right here. You can see, I think I just left the settings default, but here are the settings that I use. And this lets you add blurs to different effects and sources and things like that. This one I don't use, but I think it might be useful to some of you. We have waveform, and what this allows you to do is create these waveforms that will kind of create the the no copyright sound, like circle visualizer things. So you can basically create these in OBS, which I think is pretty cool. It has a bunch of settings and things like that, and it'll go based off of whatever audio source. So you can make it make noise based on your microphone or based on your music or whatever. This might be useful to a bunch of PNG or VTubers as well, just depending on your use case. And finally, I want to show this plugin. This plugin isn't technically out yet. At the time of me making this recording, is only available in OBS 31. So if you're on OBS 31, I recommend you check out this plugin. Essentially what this does is it allows you to see sort of a task manager for your OBS, so you can see what scenes and what sources are taking up your GPU or your CPU. If you've noticed that OBS for some reason is taking up a lot of resources on your computer and you're kind of confused why, this might help you out with figuring out what exactly is doing it. All right, and very quickly for our final thing, I just wanted to kind of show some examples of some different scenes that you might do, because in the first video, we only really have the one scene, and some people might be confused on, you know, what do I do in this scene section? What are some ideas? So obviously we have our main scene. I recommend you make another scene if you stream for like a be right back screen where it shows maybe text on screen that says like, I'll be right back, you know, using the restroom, eating, you know, doing this or that. I have another one for whenever I'm starting a stream where it will basically just be this screen that I can hide while I'm setting up a game or something. If I need to do that in that case, then this is what I use. And then of course I have another one that is for whenever I'm ending stream, because sometimes people are a bit behind on the stream. So sometimes you want to leave, instead of just saying, all right, bye guys, and then immediately hitting the stop streaming button. Sometimes you want to kind of give it a couple seconds so that the stream can catch up to what you're saying, and then you want to end it. So I recommend you have like an ending screen. If you download the plugin I showed earlier with the keyboard and mouse and stuff like that, I recommend you create a scene right here. And then another cool thing that you can do is whenever you go to your main scene and you right click on sources, you can actually add an entire scene right here. So you can see if I hit add scene, or I actually don't have to do this because I've already done it, but if you add a keyboard and mouse scene, for example, you will see it will add the keyboard and mouse that I have right there. And then in my case, I just cut off the bottom where I had the controller, and then I duplicated it. And then over here, you can see I cut off the top bit where I had the keyboard and mouse. So that's a good way to go about doing stuff like that. Same with the chat. You can see I have a bunch of different chat boxes right here, which I just created a scene for. And then I add my scene to my different areas so that my chat is always the same. And if you have a webcam, you can kind of do the same thing, where if you create a webcam scene and then you add like backgrounds and you add your camera and stuff into here, you can then take that scene and add it to whatever other scene you want, and then you can have a cool looking webcam without having to like kind of do some weird stuff. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, I just recommend you toy around with the scenes and see what you might like or dislike. All right, and I think that's going to be the end of this video. If you have any tips, then you can leave them in the comments below, and maybe someone else might see it and find it useful. If you have any questions about anything I mentioned in this video, leave them in the comments below and I will get around to it when I see your comment. This is not my main channel, so I don't get notifications whenever someone comments on this channel. So I just have to, you know, check it, you know, every week or whatever. So sorry if it takes me a bit to get to your comment, but hopefully when you do comment, I'll be able to help. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.